Right.
And this is part of the reason why I end up down the rabbit hole, because many other people, YouTubers are saying this too. I have to find good things to watch and good things to do because some of the modern content is not living up, right? Mm-hmm. So I started rewatching Batman animated series. And that's how I started doing my rewatches on Saturday morning cartoons. Saturday morning cartoons with Pops, X-Men animated, Batman animated, me just rewatching, me reacting. And I want to elaborate on that at some point. But Batman animated series, which would have been into your prime era of what you just love too, because you were talking about how, oh my gosh, these are comic books. What do you mean they're comic books, right? Batman animated, because X-Men was like literally like point to point. Like, you like this episode of X-Men, here's the comic books to read. You like this character in X-Men, here's the comic book to read. There was like a marketing strategy for them. They were like, well, we're going to rewrite this story so we can put Bishop in it, right? We're going to rewrite this story so we can highlight Omega Red, right? They did it on purpose. Mm-hmm. Batman, their creators were like, well, how about we take it, but then we kind of like make it its own mythos, its own. It's almost like a multiverse. It's almost like its own universe, because you have different representations of origins. I don't think anything ever was like, I never called anything blasphemous, but more importantly, they elevated characters. So Mr. Freeze was a cheeky, silly character, but you do Heart of Ice, and now he's like top notch, top tier, right? You do Clayface. Now everybody wants a Clayface villain. You do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The Clayface one where I don't want to spoil that one because that's one of my all-time favorite episodes ever. Mm-hmm. But there's a genius episode where Clayface is the main villain and Robin is the hero that you are following. So it's a very Batman light episode, but it's focused almost totally on Robin, and he falls in love with this sweet girl, and unfortunately she's tied up in the Clayface world. And how it ends was so shocking to me. It was very much like the death sequence, like from a comic, like we were just talking about in like it was that shocking to me. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and I'm not giving away, it's not a death. It's not what it is. I'm just saying that I don't want to spoil it because you have to watch it, but
it was tragic on that scale, and I will get there at some point, folks. I've warned everyone they're all spoilers, because it's me reacting like a child, going, I can't believe how much fun I'm having rewatching it. But what I wanted to present to you was like, I don't know if you've watched any recent Batman animated series. I know we talked a little bit about some of its inspirations, and we in our preparation for some of one of the comic books that you recommended, but the animation and the universe that they create is so beautiful and deep for a cartoon from 1992.
And then the choice to make the sky almost always red. It's always night. And then when they were airing it, they would air Superman after Batman, and Superman always had a blue sky. So when the Superman episodes started up, you're like, you could instantly tell by the color palette, oh, the bright sunny day, that's Metropolis. The red sky is Gotham. And it was such a smart design choice,
Well, on your list of comic books that you kind of, I want to say, I don't know if it was a highly recommend or that you just love. I don't know how you phrased it, but
highly recommend.
You included Mr. X, which I'm like, I so loved revisiting after seeing your video, because I read a couple issues, but more importantly, I was so hooked on, I think, exactly what you were saying about the film, with the story, which tied into Batman, was the architecture, the style, the cityscapes, the universe building. Look at that. That is completely ripped out of a Batman animated series episode right there.
And the design of Mr. X is, you can see, I'm sorry, and it's getting a reflection. I'm so bad at this.
You're fine.
You can totally see the Mr. Freeze design that Paul Ravoche uses, because Paul Ravoche is working in animation, but this is 10 years before Batman comes out. And you can totally see Mr. Freeze in this, and the whole 20s future architecture. But here's an amazing panel. I gotta get this right on the camera.
Yeah, look at that. I'm gonna make this big, so just hold it. Just kind of hang with me while I figure out how to get over there and get you guys. So you guys understand, this is exactly what inspired Batman animated series. Look at that. That is exactly the type of style, depth,
Look at that. Look
character
at
designs.
these great faces here. Like,
And look how different they are.
Huntsman. It's colored by the book was designed, covers and colored by Paul Ravoche, who was really one of the main architects behind the look of Batman the Animated Series, along with Bruce Timm. So Bruce Timm really designed the look of the main characters in Batman, but it was Paul Ravoche who did the world building that the animated series adopts. And we have the Canadians to thank for that, because it was the Canadians who were exposed to French and European comics in Canada a little bit earlier than the Americans were. So the writer Dean Motter and the Hernandez brothers, Los Hermanos Hernandez, Gilbert, Mario, and Jaime, they were able to buy European and French comic books in Canada earlier. So they were like, we should be doing more experimental stuff. We should be doing more, art direction, and really pushing the stylistic choices. So yeah, you have a lot of really beautiful graphic. It's so good.
And if you guys love Batman animated series, this is why we want to tie this in, is because this is a great comic book, a great graphic novel. It's not really in high demand either, so it's something, again, you should be able to find on a budget. It's not super, super long. It's not a title that was around for like 20 years or anything like that. I think it's probably for like $20, you probably can get everything. It's probably like for like $20, you probably can get every single Mr. X and immerse yourself in the universe, the story, and if anything else, just the universe. It's just one of those things that conceptually you feel like, gosh, why can't this get adapted into something? It just feels like an immersive universe that'd be so fun to play in.
And I mean, really, it's Dark City. Like, if you want to talk about what's the closest adaptation, it's Dark City.
And by the time people are watching this, we've already done our talk hard on Dark City. So Dark City, yeah, you just talk about Batman animated series and Dark City and just this whole concept of this noir life and unique characters. Like, you really hit the nail on the head too with that one panel where the two thugs look so different.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many times I've probably made reference to that in my little spoilery reactions to an episode of like, oh man, they didn't have to, but these characters were so different, and you had this and you had this, because it's so much more interesting and believable. And when you translate that, Mr. X and then into like Dark City, and you're like, oh my gosh, you had really kind of spun your wheels a little bit into the love of the architecture elements of it all. And after we kind of had some back and forth about that, I was looking at Mr. X a little different. I was like, wow, okay, holy cow. This is like cool storyboard stuff that I'm looking at now, like differently.
and
there's a few panels that are just like knock your socks off kind of thing when you start, if you're into that element of the aesthetics, folks, it is it's a really cool book. Since we didn't get a lot of Dark City content, you know what I mean, it kind of didn't go, and this is kind of a nice little surrogate.
Here's so in the back of this one, which amazingly this version is published by Warner Books, which I think is really appropriate, because Warner Films, when they made Bogart movies, they were the king of like, let's have cool character actors who have really interesting faces. But you can see the early concepts and some CD art that Paul Ravoche did that just has that art deco feel to it. But if word to the wise, if you ever run into Jamie Hernandez at a convention, here's another really great one. This is very much, Batman the Animated Series there.
Yeah, so that definitely, look at that skyline and the industrial look. Look at the lights. I mean, just perfect.
Yeah.
You were telling me a little bit about the story, because you kind of asked about it and kind of like walked into like a sore topic, so to speak. So share what happened a little bit, if you don't mind.
Oh, I ran into him at a convention, and I was like, I love your work. I love like Love and Rockets. I love Mr. X. And when I said Mr. X, he was like, oh, and he got really kind of standoffish. And I'm so dumb. So like rather than picking up on the social cue of being like, oh, don't mention that, I was like, I really liked it. And I just kept going on and on. And then later, a friend of mine told me he was never paid for that, and then they like stole a bunch of his ideas. And then when the original publisher, which it wasn't Warner, it was like Vortex Comics, when they declared bankruptcy, and so when these guys were like, okay, cool, can we have the rights to Mr. X back? They were like, no, because in the bankruptcy deal, like all of our stuff got, it's gone now. So it's a really, really sore subject for him. So if anyone's a fan and you see him at a convention, don't
don't have him sign
Yikes.
a comic book. Just don't go there. It's one of those little backstories of Mr. X. Well, I guess that'll probably eliminate the Mr. X movie plan that I just started playing out in my head as I was loving all the reason it, but I guess it's fine.
Dream casting.
Yeah, don't do any dream casting. Good point. I don't want to go down a movie hole really because we got to keep it comic related, but we're gonna talk hard. Isn't Dark City just a gem?
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's so interesting, and like when we were one of the common points of contention that comes up now is like everything is a rehash and everything is like let's just do a remake of XYZ. But I mean, to have filmmakers who really take a chance on very experimental things, and they try something new. I mean, you need to give people credit when they really delve into the super original territory.
It didn't land. But yeah, we're going to talk about that at some point. So keep breaking that down. I'm never going to let go of a film like that.